Have you ever stood frozen in the middle of a heated argument, knowing with absolute certainty that you were right, yet feeling powerless because the other person was simply louder? It is a universally frustrating experience. You offer logic, they offer noise. You offer facts, they offer insults. In that moment of chaos, most of us have a split-second urge to shout back, to match their volume, to win the war of decibels. But what if the secret to true dominance wasn't in being louder, but in being quieter? Welcome to a masterclass in emotional intelligence inspired by INVICTUS X. Today, we aren't just learning how to argue, we are learning how to disarm. We are exploring the ancient art of Stoic silence, not the silence of submission, but the strategic silence of a king or queen who refuses to descend into the mud. By the end of this article, you will have 5 precise verbal tools that can dismantle aggression without you ever needing to raise your pulse. In our modern culture, we often confuse volume with authority. We assume the person dominating the conversation is the one winning it. But if you look closely at the dynamics of power, you will see a different truth. True power is never frantic. True power never has to scream to be heard. Think about the ocean. The waves on the surface crash and roar, causing all the noise. But the depths are silent, heavy, and immovable. That is the state of mind we are aiming for. When you react to a shouting person by shouting back, you are merely becoming another crashing wave. You are reacting. You, in essence, are being controlled by them. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They realized that the moment you lose your composure, you lose your freedom. As we navigate these 5 smart responses, remember that they are not just comebacks, they are shields, they are mirrors, they are boundaries.
The power of precision. I don't need to raise my voice to be right. Imagine a boardroom meeting. The air is thick with tension. A project has gone off the rails, and a mid-level manager, let's call him Mark, is panicking. Mark is red-faced, pointing fingers, and his voice is steadily rising until he is practically shouting at Sarah, the team lead. "You never listened to the timeline! This is a disaster!" he bellows. The room goes silent. Everyone looks at Sarah, expecting her to snap back, to defend herself, to yell. If she does, the meeting descends into a brawl. Instead, Sarah holds Mark's gaze, waits for him to take a breath, and says in a voice slightly softer than her usual speaking tone, "Mark, I don't need to raise my voice to be right." The effect is immediate. By pointing out the volume rather than the content, Sarah has highlighted his behavior as a weakness, a crutch for a weak argument. This response works because it refuses to play on the field of emotional confrontation. It signals that you are operating on logic. As Epictetus famously said, "He who cannot control his tongue will be a slave to his emotions." When you use this phrase, you are declaring that you are no slave. You are the master of the room because you are the master of yourself. This tactic utilizes contrast. The louder they get, the softer you should speak. It forces them to lower their voice to hear you, and physically lowering one's voice has a biological feedback effect that calms the nervous system. You are literally forcing them to calm down to interact with you.
2. The mirror technique. The way you speak says more about you than it does about me. We have all met the projector. This is the person whose insults feel strangely specific or whose aggression feels completely disproportionate to the situation. They attack your character, your intelligence, or your worth. Let's picture a retail scenario. A customer is berating a barista because the coffee is lukewarm. "You're incompetent. You can't even do a simple job right. You're useless." The natural instinct is to defend. "I'm not useless. The machine is broken." But defense implies that their words have merit. Defense grants their insults weight. Instead, the Stoic approach is to hold up a mirror. The barista looks the customer in the eye and says, "The way you speak says more about you than it does about me." This is devastatingly effective because it is true. Healthy, happy, secure people do not scream at strangers over lukewarm coffee. Cruelty is almost always a symptom of internal misery. By vocalizing this, you detach yourself from their venom. You are no longer the target, you are merely the observer of their breakdown. Marcus Aurelius advised that the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. If you respond to hate with hate, you have become what you despise. As noted in Insights from the Wisdom of Restraint on GLASP, observing your emotions without immediate reaction allows you to separate the trigger from the response, maintaining your sovereignty.
3. The boundary setter. Let's talk when we can do it respectfully. This is perhaps the most critical phrase for close relationships, spouses, parents, or close friends. These are the arguments that hurt the most because the stakes are emotional. Consider a couple, David and Elena. They are arguing about finances. David is stressed and starts interrupting Elena every time she tries to explain her view. "You always do this. You don't think," he interrupts. Elena could cry. She could scream, "Let me speak!" But instead, she stops. She physically takes a step back, breaking the aggressive proximity, and says, "David, let's talk when we can do it respectfully." Then, and this is the hard part, she leaves the room. This phrase is not a surrender, it is a standard. It declares that the manner of the conversation is just as important as the matter of the conversation. If the vehicle is broken, it doesn't matter where you are trying to drive, you won't get there. This requires deep self-respect. You must believe that you deserve to be spoken to with civil tones. If you stay and tolerate abuse, you teach people that abuse is the price of your attention. By withdrawing your attention, you teach them that respect is the only currency you accept.
4. The strategic withdrawal. I'd prefer not to continue this conversation. There's a misconception that winning an argument means having the last word, but sometimes winning means protecting your peace. We live in the age of the internet troll and the drunken holiday debate. You know the scene. A distant uncle at Thanksgiving dinner has had too much wine and wants to argue about a conspiracy theory. He is baiting you. He wants the fight. He feeds on the conflict. You could engage. You could pull up statistics. You could spend 3 hours draining your energy to prove him wrong. Or you can look at him and say, "I'd prefer not to continue this conversation." And then silence. This phrase locks the door. It is the verbal equivalent of "do not disturb." It works because it offers no hooks. It doesn't say "you're wrong," which invites a "why." It doesn't say "I'm tired," which invites "oh, you can't handle the truth." It simply states a preference and enacts a boundary. According to Jungian psychology insights found on GLASP, when you stop being available to people's drama, the dynamic shifts entirely. You cease to be a source of supply for their emotional turbulence. You force them to sit with their own energy, which is often exactly what they are trying to avoid. 5. The sovereign mind. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. Not all silence-inducing phrases are for enemies. Sometimes they are for well-meaning manipulators. The parents who want you to choose a safe career. The friends who pressure you to join a lifestyle you've outgrown. They say, "You're making a mistake. You should do X. Everyone else is doing X." If you argue, you validate their authority to judge you. If you explain, you sound guilty. The Stoic path is to acknowledge their existence without accepting their reality. That's your opinion, and I respect it, but I don't share it. This is the sound of emotional independence. It is polite, yet it creates an unbridgeable gap between their expectations and your actions. It signals that you are comfortable with disagreement. In a world that demands consensus, being comfortable with dissent is a superpower. What ties all these responses together? They are all forms of active silence. They are not passive. They do not come from fear. They come from a place of immense self-control. When you use these phrases, you are doing something radical. You are breaking the script. Aggressive people operate on a script. I yell, you cower. I insult, you get defensive. I pressure, you fold. When you refuse to read your lines, the play falls apart. They are left on stage alone, looking foolish. However, a word of caution, these phrases must be delivered without sarcasm. If you say, I don't need to raise my voice, while sneering, you are just being passive-aggressive. The power lies in the genuineness of your calm. You must actually be calm. How do you achieve that? By realizing that other people's behavior is not about you. It is about their history, their pain, their stress, and their lack of tools. When you see a shouting adult as a tantrum-throwing child, you don't feel anger, you feel pity. And it is very hard to lose your temper with someone you pity.
So here is the challenge for the next week. You will encounter rude people. You will encounter stress. It is inevitable. When moment comes, do not rush to respond. Take that stoic pause, the split second between the trigger and the action. Choose one of these 5 phrases. Test it out. Watch the confusion on their face. Watch the energy in the room shift from chaotic to controlled. Watch how, by doing less, you achieve more. INVICTUS X is about mastering the self so you can master your world. These 5 phrases are your starter kit. But remember, the goal isn't just to shut others up, it's to keep your own peace intact. Which of these phrases do you need the most right now? Is it the boundary setting of number 3, the mirroring of number 2, or the sheer refusal to engage of number 4? Share your thoughts and your own power phrases in the comments below. Let's build a community of high-value, high-control individuals. Don't forget to subscribe to INVICTUS X for more tools to sharpen your mind and strengthen your spirit. Stand firm, speak less, win more.